Hello and welcome to Arise News. It's Wednesday, the 8th of March. I'm Charles Aniagolu in Nigeria's capital, Abuja. This is Arise News now. Our main headlines this morning. China wades in. They hope to diffuse a looming crisis between North and South Korea. Neither side wants to back down. And hit by a train, 4 die as a freight train smashes into a bus in the American state of Mississippi. Plus, gunfire replaced by babies' cries as FARC lay down their weapons. A baby boom is underway in the Colombian rebel group. We begin today in China, where officials are proposing North Korea suspends its missile and nuclear tests to defuse a looming crisis. Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi suggested in return the US and South Korea could halt its joint military drills, which the North views as a threat. The appeal comes just days after North Korea launched 4 missiles towards Japan. In retaliation, a missile defense system began to be rolled out in South Korea by the US. China has voiced concern over the system being put in place.
As a first step, North Korea could suspend its nuclear and missile activities in exchange for a halt of the large-scale US-South Korea exercises. This suspension for suspension can help us break out of the security dilemma and bring the parties back to the negotiating table. Then we can follow the dual-track approach of denuclearizing the peninsula on the one hand and establishing a peace mechanism on the other hand. Only by addressing the parties' concern in a synchronized, reciprocal manner can a fundamental solution be found to lasting peace and stability in the peninsula.
Meanwhile, in North Korea, tens of thousands of people have been rallying to show their support for the missile launches. Authorities had called on workers to attend the event in Pyongyang's Kim Il-sung Square. Well, throughout the program today, I'll be joined by the veteran international journalist and analyst Lindsay Barrett for his reaction to and analysis of all the big stories happening around the world this Wednesday morning. Thank you very much indeed, Lindsay, for being with us. Let's start with that story we were just talking about, the Chinese-North Korea tensions in the Korean peninsula, the Chinese proposing a deal to end that tension. They suggest North Korea suspends all of its nuclear and missile activities in exchange for a halt to joint military drills conducted by the US and South Korea. I mean, the question is, can China convince North Korea to stop its activities? Because we don't really know how much leverage Beijing has over Pyongyang, do we?
You hit the nail right on the head, Charles. China has made such suggestions at a lower level much earlier, and Pyongyang has never shown any response. Now that there is a real crisis on hand, maybe they're making it more public. They're making their appeals more public in the hope that when the West responds to it, Pyongyang may be convinced that there is something to gain. But the most important issue right now is whether China can convince Pyongyang to listen to the West.
Absolutely.
Not really to do what China is asking Pyongyang to do, but whether it can get Pyongyang to agree, to listen, to talk to the West. Remember that in the past, they did talk to the West. They agreed to nuclear rollback, and then out of the blue, they took off again. So we have to watch. It's a watch and wait situation at the moment.
Right. Now, there is a great deal of sensitive domestic politics going on right now in China, isn't there? I mean, there's the high-profile parliamentary meeting that's going on, which means that Xi Jinping, the Chinese leader, can't afford to be seen to be weak.
Of course not. I am doubtful that the Chinese will take anything more than a diplomatic position in the early stages. But as the crisis develops, as it seems to be developing, they are probably going to have to make other suggestions and to show, show willingness to even take military action.
Because of course, I mean, the Chinese leader, and when you talk about military, is also under considerable pressure from the Chinese military, who will surely oppose any military deployment of any kind in the region. And that adds up to a very delicate, worrying situation for China.
Yes, it is a very worrying situation, because the Chinese may have to show willingness to defend its position. And if its position, in defense of its position, it is forced into a situation in which it seems to be allying itself with the West, it's not going to have it easy with its own
That's a
people.
very good point. Is there any shared interest, though, between China and the US to, at the very least, try to calm tensions in what is a potentially very unstable part of the world?
Once again, you've hit the nail on the head. The real interest is to calm tensions. China does not want to enter into a war situation with anybody, whether South Korea, Japan. They want to avoid that, but they also want, I think the Chinese want to be seen to be the big brother of the North Korean factor.
Right. Well, we'll have to watch and see what happens there, because of course the other problem is that you've also got a very volatile situation in Washington with a new president, but we'll see what happens. Yes. Lindsay, for the moment, thank you very much indeed, but do stay with us, because I'd like to talk to you about other stories unfolding this morning here on Arise News. To the United States, where an investigation is to be carried out by the House Intelligence Committee on President Donald Trump's wiretap claims. Representative Adam Schiff, the top Democrat on the committee, says he hopes a hearing later this month will determine in very short order whether there's any truth to the allegations Barack Obama tapped Trump's phones during his campaign. A hearing is scheduled for the 20th of March.
The President has asked our committee to investigate this, and I would say, Mr. President, we accept. We accept. We will investigate this. The President has said that this is a scandal that dwarfs Watergate, that his predecessor engaged in an illegal wiretap of his campaign. That is one potential scandal. The alternative is a different kind of a scandal, and that is a scandal of a sitting U.S. president alleging that his predecessor engaged in the most unscrupulous and unlawful conduct. That is also a scandal if those allegations prove to be false. And we should be able to determine in fairly short order whether this accusation is true or false.
Now, it appears to be the largest leak of CIA documents in history. WikiLeaks has released thousands of pages describing sophisticated software tools used by the agency to break into smartphones, computers, and even internet-connected televisions, all with the intent of spying on citizens. WikiLeaks' official Twitter feed, which is thought to be run by founder Julian Assange, posted a link to the documents yesterday and then followed that up with a password to access the contents. Well, still with me in the studio, veteran international journalist and analyst Lindsay Barrett. Lindsay, now this one I know you've been following very closely. Not clear how WikiLeaks got that information, which includes nearly 9,000 documents and files, but it claims that things like Samsung TVs are among the CIA's tools for surveillance. The CIA has not confirmed the details, but let's get your thoughts on that.
The last thing you said, that the CIA has not confirmed the details, is very interesting. There's no denial forthcoming, and the only explanation they've given for not even talking much about it is to say that they never comment on issues.
Right. Well, experts have looked at the documents, and they appear to be legitimate, according to them. They contain a lot of internal documents And real sensitive data.
Yes. It's also interesting that what the objective of what WikiLeaks has opened up on appears to be internal surveillance of American citizens. They haven't told us yet how much of this is global. But I think this has been going on for years, and people know. The opponents of the right in America have always argued that they are under constant surveillance.
Briefly, does it concern you that you might be sitting there with your shiny new Samsung TV, and when you switch it off, somebody's still watching and listening to you?
And listening to you. It does concern people. It concerns the average citizen. But what we are seeing now is a new, technological limit has been broken. It appears that you cannot be sure, especially when you are in the United States, whether you are in private.
Yes. The other big issue is, of course, whether or how much damage this has done to the CIA, because their cyber activities have been revealed. But for the moment, Lindsay, thank you very much indeed. I will be coming back to you shortly again. Staying in the US, and the Republicans' long-awaited plan to replace health law Obamacare is facing stiff opposition from within their own party. Congressional Republicans either say the plan goes too far or does not go far enough. Senator Rand Paul claims the bill will be dead on arrival at the Senate. It's been dismissed as Obamacare 2.0, Obamacare Light. The Affordable Care Act, known as Obamacare, helped 20 million previously uninsured Americans get health insurance. Critics say it increased insurance premiums, but this was an issue before the law was put in place. Now, a collision between a freight train and a bus in Mississippi has left at least 4 people dead. Authorities say the train smashed into the coach, pushing it 300 feet down the tracks. Rescuers spent more than an hour removing passengers. The bus was reportedly stopped on the tracks when the train, pulled by 3 locomotives, crashed into it. In Australia, the 3rd anniversary of the disappearance of flight MH370 is being marked with a memorial service. Several victims and relatives of the 239 passengers and crew aboard the Boeing 777 live in or near Brisbane. Officials say they understand the frustration that many would feel on the anniversary of the tragedy, that there was no longer an active search for the crash site. A permanent memorial is to be erected in the Western Australia state. The airliner flew far off course during a flight from Kuala Lumpur in Malaysia to Beijing on 8 March 2014 before vanishing. Well, time for a short break, but do stay with us. I'll be right back with all the business news.
Thinking of